It's time for Tim Talk. I'm Zach Martin on the Big Fat American Radio Network, and we've got a lot of stuff to get to today with our friend Timothy Welsh. You can follow us at facebook.com/BigFatAmerican. Don't forget to check out our website, ZachMartinRocks.com. Subscribe to our podcast. We're on every platform you can possibly imagine, radio.com, Stitcher, Spotify, iTunes. Just look for Big Fat American. Download and listen. We really do appreciate that. You sent me a text about the photo, and I saw the story as it was written in the New York Post about the father and daughter who died crossing from Mexico into the United States. And a lot of people are talking about this photo, and I've seen the comments on Facebook and Twitter. And you asked me for what I thought of the picture. Well, this is a tragedy. It shouldn't happen. I think that you just can't look at somebody in the White House or even the United States itself and say it's all on us. Mexico has a responsibility in this as well to make sure that they do their part to secure the borders. Borders are important for national security. We don't know who's going where and what they're up to. And I think we should hold people to the same standards that we hold ourselves to. If you have to have an I-9 to get a job, well, you should have an I-9 to get a license. I remember trying to get jobs in the past where they really busted my hump to get these I-9s completed. Furthermore, when people say we have to do something to fix it, $4.5 billion to possibly set up some hotels or living arrangements for everybody that's trying to come into the United States from other countries, and we don't vet them or any of those things. My reply is, what are we going to do for the over 5 million people that are suffering from autism right now? What are we going to do about the homeless in Los Angeles and New York and San Francisco and the tent cities that are popping up everywhere? What are we going to do about poor families in the United States that don't have money or food to put on their table or adequate medical care? So we have a lot of things going on in this country, and we have to take care of our own as well. I'm not saying to ignore the problem at the border. If you ignore it, it won't go away. It'll just be worse, but we got to take some sort of action. So you asked me what I thought about that picture. Those are the thoughts that were going through my head. It's a tragedy. It should not happen. And I think the world can pick it up a little bit better. And we pay money to belong to the United Nations. And Mexico makes a lot of money off the United States. And I think it's, an international crisis, not just something that we have to handle. Hopefully that makes sense. And if anybody's upset about what I have to say or what I have to think about that, well, it's a free country. That's the other issue. You ask me a question, I give you an answer. And if it doesn't go along with something that you think or you reason to be the right way of looking at it, well, that other person's an idiot, and you start to label them. I went to open up a bank account for the new non-for-profit St. Sophia's Mission yesterday, Timothy.
Uh-huh.
And I told them that the mission was to help people raise funds, do fundraising, and help people that are living on the spectrum with autism, with various disabilities, the primary caregivers. And then you have people that are living with cancer. So there's opportunities to work from home or from the hospital while you're getting chemo, if you can do that kind of thing. So we have opportunities. We're building opportunities. And then we're going to fund food kitchens and the things that you do as part of a religious kind of organization. And he asked me, well, what do you think about those anti-vaxxers? I said, well, I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I just think that we should do risk analysis. I think that we should look at the ingredients. We should find out if we're allergic to any of those type of ingredients. Maybe there's some ingredients that we are morally obligated to decline. That's a personal choice. And as long as, for many reasons, if what you do doesn't affect the people around you, it's really nobody else's concern. So this whole idea of mandated vaccines, and I think it's going overboard. And then there's the efficacy of the vaccines. Then there's what we really need.
I'd like to make 2 points about the picture before we get on to a couple other subjects.
Okay, great.
First is just that I echo what you said is it's a tragedy. It shouldn't happen. But my 2 points are, one is why is one life in our society worth more than another life? That's the first question that I was really asking, kind of the religious, spiritual, ethical, moral, social standards question is why is one migrant picture worth so much more than citizens of things? And then the second question would be the censorship issue. If you or I put that picture up, we wouldn't even get past FCC standards. I don't know if the picture was staged or how AP came across that picture or why that was deemed that picture at that moment that they could show two bodies in that form. Most of the FCC rules that I've seen in the past, you or I couldn't put that picture up without being censored. So those are the two questions. That how come CNN gets to put that up a day before, and then now all of a sudden it's splattered across Congress?
Good question, and a couple of thoughts regarding that. First off, I noticed that the little girl has her arm around the daddy's neck, and I just don't believe that that's how they were found. It could be possible, but something smells funny to me. The other thing is, and I've seen this before, picture of somebody being run over by a subway, and they get the picture of the person being run over on the subway. If I see somebody suffering, or if I see somebody in danger, or if I see somebody, God forbid, is dead, my first thought is, oh, let me get a picture of that. That's going to be great. It tells me that somebody's looking for the perfect picture to tell a story that they want to tell, regardless of the victims that are part of it. You know, the other thing is, what about the privacy of that family? I don't think that that's acceptable either. But all right, I guess you're saying it was done in international waters, so the same rules don't apply. I don't know how any of that stuff works. You do bring up a good point about the value of the lives of people here in the United States and throughout the world for the most part. No life is more valuable than the others. We're all created equal. So that's a good question to ask, or something good to think about. I thought the same things. And then I thought, I saw the comment like, these people have a right to life and we should be helping them. And the same people that are talking about the right to life of these poor people at the border are the same ones that are saying, well, a woman has a right to choose an abortion right up until the time of the birth of the child. And they're mute when they find a baby who was in a bag deposited in the woods by a police officer in Georgia. Those same people don't say anything about that, but find some suffering puppies that everybody needs to focus on. We'll make sure that gets on Facebook and everybody goes, oh, this is horrible. Whoever did this should be shot. The comments that people make. I think that we have a society that is leaning towards evil, doesn't have their priorities in proper order, and really they're living delusional lives. I'm telling you, it really is distorted. And, if you point out to those things, then again, you get labeled as the bigot, which I just don't understand. I'm not allowed to tell the truth as I see it, but you are. And if I tell the truth as I see it and it doesn't match yours, and I'm talking about it, in these type of conversation, I'm the idiot, I'm the fool, I'm the jerk, I'm the bigot. I should be reported to Facebook. Now, the thing about social media that people have to understand, when you vent on Facebook, I got to tell them, nobody cares. Maybe your friends will interact with you. And then after a while, the people who disagree with you, they'll just block you and no longer comment because it's just not worth it. And the end result is there's no changes that happen. If we start to have respectful dialogue about anything, including the border, making the border sound like it's a concentration camp from Nazi Germany and what's going on now is really another kind of ridiculous way of thinking and viewing it, because nobody chose to go to concentration camps in World War II in Nazi Germany. That's one part of it. And the outcome in those concentration camps in Nazi Germany was usually death. And I do know some people who escaped Nazi Germany, and I know some people that were actually in those concentration camps. Because I'm older, so chances are I would know somebody. And I gave last rites on Memorial Day to a guy who was in a concentration camp during World War II. So I know some of the stories. I visited the area. There's a distinction. We have young politicians spouting off things with their mouth, and they have no idea what they're talking about. And people listen to them, and they think that is the bona fide truth, or that's the right way of thinking because they're young and cool. But it's not. It's distorted. It's actually horrible. And listen, these problems at the border since we brought it up, and I didn't intend to talking about this, have been going on for 30, 40 years, maybe longer. And these same camps or these same setups that are there now were the same setups during the Obama administration. I just find it funny that it was okay whatever President Obama did with some people, but as soon as it's somebody else in charge, a guy who doesn't have the same initial after the name as President Obama, we're going to make a federal case about everything. And you notice in Congress, it's been moving like a snail. Nothing gets done, and we're still focusing on whatever Russia did or didn't do in the election of 2016. Now, what's the end result going to be? I think most people in the United States are going to probably reelect Trump. And what are we going to have 4 more years of this or 6 more years of this kind of stuff? It's over the top. And because of all the fighting we're doing and because we're not paying attention what's going on in our own neighborhood, it's falling apart. And we're seeing gun violence in Chicago, high murder rates. We're seeing, more crime in New York City, violent crimes. More reports about rapes all over the place. Children disappearing. The story of what like we had in Georgia. So there's a lot of evil in this world that's happening. And in my belief, as a Christian, I think it's not somebody else's job to go out and make the difference or assume that somebody's going to pick up the slack. We all have a responsibility. Posting about it on social media is not going to help. What you need to do to help is call up your representative and be active. If you want to have your own radio show, you can do it for about $100-something. I can tell you what you need to set up. You can do your own podcast. And for $20 a month, you can send it out everywhere too. So we all can make more of an impact and make more people's lives better if we just do our part. So there you go, Timothy. I didn't expect to go there, but I guess it's one of those things that most people are talking about. And, we have to address it.
Well, I think that was a perfect lead into point number one is what do you do in a world that's crazy as it is that really makes a difference? It seems like everybody throws at me every day, oh, do this petition, do this tweet, do this boycott. What really makes a difference? And it kind of tied into the whole Dak Shepard, Christian Bell situation that's going on. And everybody wants to boycott Hello Bello, the vegan product line that they have. And does that really make a difference? And what's your thoughts on that?
I don't think, boycotts can work. It was used by the civil rights movement in the 60s. And it seems to me if you say the wrong thing in public or post the wrong thing online, if enough people call up the television station or the television network and their sponsors, well, it's over for you if you, God forbid you do that. And just remember, blessed are the merciful, for they will obtain mercy. I think Facebook and Twitter storms and getting all upset about things, it doesn't help. You just fight people and they go away. Then after a while, you sound like a broken record. Nobody cares. I think the bake sales and, treating people to movies and books and getting your hands dirty with the community. Find people that are in need. You don't have to go very far. You can work at a soup kitchen. You can arrange for donations for food pantries. You can be active in the church and find out what ministries are available, or in the synagogue. You can volunteer at the hospital. You can visit people at hospice. We need hospice volunteers. You can go if you really love children, and you're maybe a mom and you got an empty nest and you're kind of depressed about that. Did you know that local hospitals need moms and dads to hug little babies that don't have parents or that might have some problems, so you can be a baby hugger? If animals are your thing, which I do believe that we have to protect the environment, that we all have to respect the environment, that we have to use resources wisely, that we should never mistreat people or animals. Having said that, just remember, human beings do come first. They're a priority. Now, if working with animals is your thing, there's always a shelter that could really use your help. And help in small but significant ways, like cleaning up the cages, maybe organizing the food, making some phone calls, trying to get the pets adopted. There's no doubt about it. They asked little children who were dying, were terminally ill, what was important to them. And a lot of the children were saying, my pet. I love my pet. These pets, They mean so much to so many people. They really do. They're God's way of loving us unconditionally. So working with animals is a great thing. Helping to improve your environment, another good thing. Maybe volunteer for a political campaign. And keep the people that are part of that campaign a little bit in check. When they start saying crazy things or coming up with crazy stances, you might want to give them a little bit of reason. And also, this is something that should never be underestimated. Visit the sick, visit the imprisoned. If someone is imprisoned in their body and you're visiting and being present and just being present with people, a ministry of presence and support is a good thing. On top of that, what you could do is pray for people. You could pray for me. You could pray for Tim. Don't pray for yourself as much. Pray for what other people need. Then you'll find yourself having a better life. And also pray for your enemies. It's really easy to hate them, but a real person, a real good human being will even love their enemies. So hopefully that helps, and it goes into number 2, supporting others' dreams and helping others. So Timothy...
I think in my world, I really like the idea of micro benefits where you pick a family, pick a project, pick a date, say a prayer, get it done. And my theory is that a lot of the established religions and denominations and service clubs set up their mission field and their purpose 200 some years ago, 150 years ago, 2,000 years ago. And I think a lot of us can go to those service clubs and those institutions, those fraternity and sororities, organizations, and just kind of educate and say, this is a type of thing that needs service now. And there's a lot of new things on the horizon. Those kids with disabilities, those single mothers, just giving a single mother time to go to a date or to shopping or just to have time away from her kids as respite, that's a huge thing. And when you give a donation to a service organization that's actually doing the work on the ground, there's no overhead. When you give to some of these national organizations, you don't see exactly where the dollars are going. Mm-hmm. So the group where you know the people that are putting together the project, like Zach and I, and we've been in our separate professions for decades, when you're going to go to St. Sophia's, that we're going to channel that money directly to helping families in dealing with autism and developmental disabilities, and then working towards those placements after the parents are gone and addressing that nightmare scenario.
Right. And usually, I'm going to tell you right now, it's not just for people on the spectrum. There's all kinds of disabilities, but when you put these things together, you only have so many words that you can put down. But I put people with disabilities because that covers a wide range of situations. This past Sunday, I did a sermon about faith, and I don't have time to get into it right now. Maybe for another episode, we'll talk about faith. But St. Sophia's mission, and for many purposes, I'll say Sophia's mission, and it's sophiasmission.org will be the website. It's inspired by faith, hope, and charity. Now, what do I mean by that? St. Sophia was an early Christian saint, and her name means wisdom. She had 3 daughters, Faith, Hope, and Charity. I think you know the meanings of those words. And they were martyred for their belief in Christ. And Faith, Hope, and Charity were martyred in front of the mother, St. Sophia, as the story goes. I don't need to get too graphic about it, but how many of us have watched our children suffer? And we rely on faith, hope, and charity to get through our trials and travails. And then a lot of people will say, well, what should I ask God for? And I will refer to the letter of James. If any one of you lacks wisdom, let him ask of God, who gives to all liberally and without reproach, and it will be given to him. But let him ask in faith with no doubting, for he who doubts is like a wave of the sea driven and tossed by the wind. For let not the man suppose that he will receive anything from the Lord. He is double-minded, unstable in all his ways. A lot of us take on these responsibilities. And I guess maybe I can tell you a little bit about the faith sermon that I gave. When you see a road that's being reconstructed And maybe you've been on that road before. And you think to yourself as you're stuck in traffic, gosh, this is horrible. I cannot stand this road. When are they going to do something? When are they going to widen it? When are they going to fix it? Well, sooner or later, they are going to widen it and fix it. And the time comes and they start the construction, which means everybody's going down to one lane. You're looking at what's going on now. You're even more traffic. How long is this going to last? And because it's done by the government or somebody's paying from the government, somebody's paying a company to do it, you think, great, I'm sure this is going to work out really well. And you don't really have faith in the outcome because you're so used to things not working out. You have no idea how this is going to be finished. You don't know when, any of those things. But the guy who came up with the plan or the girl, they knew. They had faith in their vision. They understood what it took. They put all the materials together. They knew the cost. They knew what the cost was. And they went full of faith, and sooner or later, the road was finished. I rode down the FDR the other day, which used to be a horrible road, and they did just that. And I'm like, wow, sorry I doubted. And our faith in God is much like that. God can see the beginning, the middle, and the end. He knows exactly what it's going to look like. And I think if most of us stopped to worry so much, because it doesn't help, worrying does not help, and you build on your faith, then good things will happen. Believe in the impossible and expect the incredible, is the old saying. I believe it's an adage like that. So hopefully that helps. And there's where, trying to bolden your faith and try to become stronger in faith actually does help the journey. We see suffering all the time, and just because you have faith doesn't mean that you're going to avoid suffering. You're not going to be unhappy. But I would say, by and large, you're going to be happier than you used to be. And the other thing to do is to stop comparing yourselves to other people, specifically on Facebook. We have a lot of children these days from Generation Z who are committing suicide. I can open up the paper just about every day or look on the internet and I see a story about somebody who was bullied and they committed suicide, or somebody committed suicide, or a famous personality. It's because they're not happy. There's this emptiness. There's this loneliness. They don't have the support system around them. They don't know what it's like to be loved. And maybe their value of who they are is distorted by what they're seeing in the media and on Facebook. And just remember, the devil is always in the background. You know what the devil does? He makes you feel bad about yourself. He tells you can't do it. He tells you there's no such thing as faith. He tells you there's no such thing as God. Why do you believe in something you can't see? Hey, people believe in black holes. You can't see them, but they know that they're there. Well, it's the same thing with God. The devil likes to destroy marriages. The devil likes to use hard times to make it worse. That's what the devil does. So a heart that's rooted in faith and wisdom is the way to succeed in life, and you'll find yourself being a lot happier. How about spending more time doing things that matter in meaningful ways? Go to church, go to temple, whatever it is, and less time fighting with people on Facebook. So that's some wisdom I like to impart to those listening today to Timothy Talk with Zach Martin on the Big Fat American Radio Network. We're kind of running out of time, but we got some more stuff to get to. I think that we covered 2 and 3, lightening the load, rising from depression, because I just gave you some keys to that. When the wife wants to call a doctor, but you hesitate, seizures. All right, Timothy, you've been dealing with seizures and Tanner, so take us through. I guess when I think of a seizure, I think of epileptic seizures like I've seen on TV, and I might have seen a couple over my lifetime. But what does a seizure look like? Are there any indications? Would a service animal help in any way, shape, or form? And then what happens after Tanner goes through a seizure? Tell us your experience with all of that.
Well, seizures are one of those things that are just gut-wrenching to a parent, that when you see a child or an adult go through a seizure and it's your first time, you really are in for a shock of your life. It's almost like that person has lost all control and you think that they're dying right in front of you. The medical establishment is really kind of numb to the whole process of seizures. They really do not react in a way that's measurable in comparison to what a parent sees when they're going through a seizure. Now, seizures, you're right, can run the gamut. There's about 4 or 5 that are on a chart at the doctor's wall that you can read that are the different types of seizures. I think Tanner's had all 5 of those and invented a couple more. The type that he's having right now, I use as a comparison as the computer rebooting. And it's like a power failure, and instantly power goes out and he falls forward or falls backwards. And so if he's sitting down or laying down, it's not really a big deal. He just kind of clenches up. But if he's standing up, he'll fall right into a countertop or bathtub, the tile floor. He'll just face plant. And so it's very scary in that regards as far as potential injuries. Now, the doctor will tell you, the medical professionals will tell you, generally seizures that run less than 2 minutes, they don't even say, give them a call. And in Tanner's case, he can have measured hundreds of seizures in a day when he's sleeping. During the day, it's usually between 2 and 10 seizures. And when it gets up to that 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 amount of seizures, my wife says, let's call the doctor again. And so when somebody is what they call brittle, which Tanner is, that means that he potentially could break through and have a lot of seizures all of a sudden. When he's only having 2 or 3 seizures a day, the medical professionals don't really get nervous about it. And then their answer to kind of calm you down would be to add another drug or up the drugs that he's on. And that's always a quandary, is saying, did he start having seizures because of gut issues or a fever or a moon change or a temperature change or something like that? So all of those things can play into whether a person who is brittle like Tanner could start having seizures. So that's kind of a very quick overview of seizures and the situation that I'm in right now. As a dad, maybe we should bring it back to saying, okay, the kid has sniffles and the wife wants to call the doctor, and your parents kind of said, oh, tough through it. When do you call a doctor? Kind of just a question.
Well, I think I can help you with a little bit of marriage counseling. I think you guys should both go to the doctor, have that conversation, and discuss what the minimum amount of seizures is before you should call them, or the type of seizure before you should call a doctor. How would that work?
I kind of resigned myself to that question. Again, if she feels more comfortable in calling the doctor, there's no harm in going to the doctor. She asked for my counsel and said, oh, should we call the doctor? And I'm kind of like, okay, no, this is kind of sporadic and, not something that they're going to do something about it. And it makes me nervous to add the more drugs to the situation. So then I'm nervous about that side of the situation. So, but for the both of us, we can go in and kind of as a team effort and decide whether that next adding to the number of drugs he's taking already or the situation, we can have that discussion with the doctor and after the doctor. So there's no problem in that way.
Almost like being a head coach of a football team. What's the situation? What's the call? What's the proper call to play or play to call? Sorry. Got it backwards. Any hoodle. I'll probably get in trouble just for having that conversation with you on air. So hopefully she doesn't listen to this one. Well, listen, most of the times the wives don't listen to us. Anyway, I just want to make an announcement about our new non-for-profit at St. Sophia's Mission, or Sophia's Mission. If you're going to write a check, it's Saint, S-A-I-N-T, Sophia's, with apostrophe S, Sophia's Mission. And we got the website that we're going to design. And what we're going to do is we're going to do fundraising and fund various projects for people living on the spectrum with various disabilities, as well as the primary caregivers. Give them, let them apply, and then I don't like to say the word give because you're actually working. Give you or provide great quality jobs that pay around $15 to $20 an hour, depending on how much funding we get. It'll be so that people can work from a remote location in which they can take care of their loved one, or if the loved one has skill sets that, for instance, posting on Facebook. We need a lot of people to do a lot of different tasks. So there's something for everybody to do. And it's something that I have a vision for a long time. I've been telling this to Timothy, so we're going to make that happen. Eventually, we will have the Big Fat American Media Company. It's going to get incorporated, so it's going to be bigger than a sole proprietor. And we're also working on assisted living communities that we're going to develop down the road. So we've got 3 different channels or approaches that we're taking: the non-for-profit, the for-profit, and the assisted living communities. And of course, with all of that in mind, we're going to get some more experts that we'll have on the air once in a while that talk about estate planning, guardianship, and all the other things that go along with making sure that your loved ones are in the best possible position and that they're not going to be taken advantage of. Because a lot of kids on the spectrum and a lot of disabled people, a lot of people overall, especially if they're, gullible. I can be gullible. I can believe just about anything. They become victims. And we got to set something up that prevents that to the best of our ability and provides faith, hope, and charity. You can follow us at facebook.com/BigFatAmerican. Check out our website, ZachMartinRocks.com. Don't forget to subscribe, download, and listen to our podcasts, which are available on radio.com. Share it with your friends. iTunes, Big Fat American, Stitcher, Spotify, all of those various platforms. Tune in, and probably a few others I just can't remember. Spreaker and SoundCloud. There you go. That's basically where we can be found. You can also find the various broadcasts on our Facebook page and YouTube as well. I think the channel is Big Fat American or Zach Martin Rocks. Take your pick. And you can follow you can follow Timothy at The Real Tanner's Dad. Am I right about that?
The Real Tanner's Dad is at Gmail is my email, and at Tanner's Dad is everywhere else. And I tweet live. So if you're doing Twitter, Parler, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, I will respond to your questions, your posts, your comments, and bring them back to talk about on the show.
Great. Now it's time to tell Tim a joke and see if he gets it. It's a teacher in the class. Teacher, kids, what does the chicken give you? Student, meat. Teacher, very good. What does the pig give you? Student, bacon. Teacher says, great. What does the fat cow give you? Student said, homework. All right.
It took me a couple seconds, but I think I got it.
All right. Good. I'm glad you got it.